You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. What we want to remind you, dear one, is that this entire experience is so that you can see things about yourself that are less than loving or less evolved or causing you suffering. So the way to look at the situation is through that lens. What is this situation asking of me? And your question certainly alludes to that idea. You can feel that you are getting frightened as you lose faith. That's what's happening. You're getting frightened as you lose faith. You will lose faith when you play out a story, a negative story in the future that is, we'll say, purely worldly. So if you have the story in your head, for example, if I continue on this path through the court, I'm going to spend X number of pounds or dollars or euros. And if I don't win, then I will be in really, really serious trouble. That is a future scenario that is going to be believed by your mind because it's coming from your mind. You have to remember that any story that you are generating is not showing you reality. It's showing you your mind. It's showing you your beliefs. It's showing you your fears. That is the gift that this situation is giving you. What you're feeling, your loss of faith and your panic, your wobbliness, is revealing what your mind is doing. So it's distressing because your mind will tell you, but yes, this is a possibility. It is a possibility, but so is the opposite, which is winning and having the assets divided properly. So what you have here is a decision. The same decision that you have, let's say, when you first get married. I'm going to marry this person. Nobody goes into marriage. Most people don't go into marriage expecting, let's say, infidelity and divorce. They wouldn't do it if they really, really believed in those things, or really, really believed that those things were a potential. But they always are a potential. But if you believe in them and think about them, my husband's home late. I bet he's got a girlfriend. He's spending his money on something. I know it. I can tell. He bought that tie. He didn't tell me. Where's he getting? What's he doing with his money? Those kinds of stories can come up in the mind. And what we want you to understand is that whatever story comes up in your mind generates the feelings that you have if you believe the story. It doesn't matter whether the story's true. It doesn't matter whether the story's a fantasy in your mind. If you believe the movie that's being made up in your head, I'm going to lose everything if this doesn't go my way. If you have that thought and you believe that thought, you will get a pit in your stomach and you will feel sick and you will be afraid. And we want to remind you, what are those feelings telling you? That you're out of alignment, that you're not telling the right story. So what we want you to figure out is, how do you tell the story within your own consciousness that makes you feel good? Now, the logical mind, which is generally the egoic mind, will say, well, I can tell a positive story that everything's going to work out okay, but I could just be wearing my rose-colored glasses. I can just be putting my head in the sand. This is how the cynical ego gets you to destroy your own positivity and your own positive creations. It says you're a fool to think that way. It says you're an idiot to believe that things can work out for good. But what we want you to know is this: the most important thing for you to do to get a good future is to feel good now. So what we're going to ask you to do is going to be the very opposite of what you want to do. We are going to ask you to pray for your husband, ex-husband, for the next 2 weeks. Every morning and every night, we're going to ask you to pray for him to be happy and to live a full and productive and abundant life. And what this will do, it will trigger within you everything that is hateful, everything that is cynical, everything that is judgmental. And that is what you want to see. You want to see those things arising from within you. But what will happen by praying for your enemy, he's temporarily your enemy right now, is you will squeeze out of the situation the thing that you set this up to hide from you. So the negative situations that are blamed on others in the separation experience are the situations that you have set up so that you don't see things about yourself. So in praying for him for 2 weeks, morning and evening, you will trigger within you the hateful, the unloving, the judgmental, the guilt, all of these things. And it could be about you and it could be about him. But this situation is asking you to make him guilty, make him wrong, make him the bad guy. So by inverting that, you are rising above the battleground and you are using it for your spiritual evolution so that you come to understand yourself better. And as you come to understand yourself better, as you see what's living in your mind, as in he's a jerk, he never did this, blah, 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 whatever your stories are about him, we want you to know that those things that live in you that have now come to the surface are the things that bring about the creation or miscreation, which is a more accurate word, of something like divorce, poverty, stress. The things in you that are going to be revealed to you are the negative beliefs that create negative situations. So if you use this negative situation to dissolve some hateful beliefs and ideas in your own consciousness, what you are doing is you are ensuring that you will have a better future. And it may not absolutely work out the way you want to with this one, but if you use the situation to invert everything and ask yourself, what's living in me that's unloving and hateful? That is the healing that's going to take place. It's going to be your mind that heals. It's going to be your frequency that goes up. And even if the current situation doesn't go the way you want it to, your future will be brighter because you know that you've eliminated some hateful ideas from your mind, some judgmental ideas from your mind, and overall, you will be of a higher frequency, which means your future will be of a higher frequency. And if this case does not go the way you want, you will make it your forgiveness practice until you can look at it and think, that was a good thing that happened there. I got to see some things about my mind. I got to see how I contributed to the situation in some way, because it is a co-creation. When you get to a divorce situation, it is a co-creation. And that the other thing we'd like you to do is to reflect back upon your marriage and the breakup and the fact that there's financial disagreements or deceptions, or however you want to word it. We want you to look back at your participation in the finances of your family and ask yourself, can I see how I contributed to this? Is there something I was doing in the marriage that contributed to this situation? Then you will be getting all of the good juice out of this situation, the lessons that this came to give you. You will be learning to manage your mind better, knowing that if you are having negative future ideas, that it's showing you your mind. It's not showing you reality or your ex-husband. It's showing you your mind. So you want to see it and you want to go, oh, that's a horrible story. That's coming from my beliefs about reality. That's coming from me. Goodness, okay, I need to look at what this story is telling. I'm unloved. I'm abandoned. I can't trust men. Whatever the story is that comes up when you see this negative future, it's your mind you're seeing. It's your mind that's creating the image. It's your mind that's creating the movie. And it's making nasty feelings within you, which says what? It's not in alignment with love. Begin to make future visions of you having a fair and equal decision made by the judge, seeing you living in the house you'd like to live in, driving the car you'd like to live in, and get yourself in alignment with that frequency a couple of times a day, probably when you're praying for your husband. Do it at the same time, pray for him, and then envision yourself in general. Don't be specific. Envision yourself in general living a lovely life and saying, thank you for this situation. And what you will feel then is relief. And that means that you've gone up in frequency and you are now closer to love. And that is what you want. And that is your purpose of this incarnation. And that will mean that you have used this situation for your consciousness evolution, and it will be to your future benefit. And it will be to your current benefit because you won't be wringing your hands in stress and despair. You will be feeling relief knowing that you are at a more loving frequency, which means that your future will also be at a more loving frequency.